أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. وأعوذ به من شر نفسي إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المطهرين المكرمين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم وهو أحسن القائلين وأصدق الصادقين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله واسع عليم. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the purification of the souls and the enlightenment of the hearts, and for the hastening of the reappearance of the awaited Savior, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, enlighten your souls and the atmosphere with the recitation of salawat upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is a universally recognized act of virtue and goodness. It is desired by human beings in that it places happiness and joys in the hearts of others. It is mentioned in countless verses and narrations from the Ahl al-Bayt, which results in much reward for the individual who performs it in many shapes and forms. An-nafaqa or as-sadaqa, meaning to give for the sake of Allah and charity, is one of the most noble acts that the human beings can undertake in their lives. It is deemed to be a righteous, virtuous act of service to others. You and I have undertaken sadaqah or infaq fi sabilillah in different parts throughout our lives, whether it's looking after an orphan, whether it's paying or donating towards a hospital, whether it's giving some money towards a place of worship or a place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is remembered or the Ahl al-Bayt are remembered. There are many shapes and forms that the human beings and believers undertake charity in their lives. Indeed, the religion of Islam and the Holy Quran brings forward this idea of the importance of sadaqah and charity, in that there are at least 50 ayat in the Holy Quran that subject and discuss the area of sadaqah. There are more that discuss infaq, giving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Islamic economic system seeks to eradicate poverty, seeks to create some kind of balance in society, and therefore there's this emphasis that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us from wealth, we should seek to alleviate the suffering and the need of others who may be less fortunate than ourselves. Indeed, the holy month of Ramadan brings forward this realization, isn't it? That the Prophet of Islam, Rasul al-A'zam Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, in the famous sermon, encourages you and I to remember the poor and the needy in the month of Ramadan. And that by our hunger and our thirst, we remember the hunger and the thirst of the destitute and those who are less fortunate than you and I are. But the religion of Islam is not just a religion of theory, but rather a religion that places theory alongside practice. Hence you find that in order for an individual to become a Muslim, they must what? State the Shahada, or must believe in the Shahada. The Shahada is not only theoretical, it is not only La ilaha illallah, but also Muhammadur Rasulullah, isn't it? Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Not only does the Quran tell us of the importance of charity, but brings forward to us examples who are crystallization of charity, whose life were indeed dedicated to the service of others, indeed that they would prefer others over themselves. You look at the Holy Beloved Prophet, you look at the Ahl al-Bayt, you look at those who were around them, were individuals who demonstrated to mankind the true meaning of infaq and sadaqah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence you find that, for example, once Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi was walking in Madinatul Munawwara, and he came across Al-Miqdad ibn al-Aswad. When he saw Miqdad often does what? Often greets him, and they have a conversation that they normally have when they see each other. Amir al-Mu'mineen saw that Miqdad was somehow troubled. There was something that was in his mind. He greets him, but Miqdad walks away. Amir al-Mu'mineen said to him, "Oh Miqdad, what is it that's troubling you? Why are you not yourself today?" He looked at him and says, "Ya Ali, today I'm looking for food for my family. They have not eaten. Indeed, I'm looking for some kind of respite for them." Amir al-Mu'mineen, who had taken a loan out for one dinar, he takes this money and gives it to Miqdad and says, "You go and buy the necessary food and whatever you need for your family," and continues on his journey. He continues to the Masjid al-Nabawi, where he prays behind the Prophet of Islam. After the salah is complete, the Prophet of Islam says to him, "Ya Ali, tonight I would like to come to your house and eat food there with you and my daughter." Yes, Amir al-Mu'mineen knows that the family hasn't eaten, but because of his magnanimity and generosity, says to the Prophet, "You are very welcome." When he goes home with the Prophet, he informs his beloved wife that tonight we have the guest, the Holy Prophet, and he has come for food. Sayyidatun Nisa, Fatimatu Zahra, salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, knows there is no food. She goes inside the room where she normally prepares the food. She raises her hands and prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for some food, for something in order to present to the Prophet. The narrations tell us that as soon as she lowered her hands, blessed hands, that the food was presented. Jibreel brought down food from Jannah and presented to her right in front of her. And this should not be a surprise, because the Quran says Maryam alayhi salam, the mother of Isa, used to be presented with food in her mihrab. That indeed, when Yahya would come, Zakaria rather, would come and find this, would say, "Anna laki hadha?" qalat huwa min indillah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yarzuqu man yasha. The lady of light picks up the food, presents it to the Prophet. Amir al-Mu'mineen is wondering what's happening here. At that moment, the Prophet of Islam looks at Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyidatun Nisa and says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has rewarded you with this food because of the act of charity that you displayed early on, and the fact that you gave that gold coin to Miqdad as a response, as a reward. Hence we find the subject of charity and giving for the sake of Allah, one that the Quran emphasizes in many places. But importantly in Surah Al-Baqarah, there are 14 verses in Surah Al-Baqarah that have been dedicated to sadaqah and infaq for the sake of Allah. In addition to several others in chapter 2, such as the one at the beginning, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, as one of the qualities of the God-wary, of the muttaqeen. There are several verses that highlight the necessity of giving for the sake of Allah and charity across Surah Baqarah. But in particular, starting from verse 261 onwards, with some reference to some other subjects like riba, usury, interest, but going back to the importance of charity, there are 14 ayat that highlight the excellence of this act of virtue and deed. What is the main understanding of these ayat? We do not have time to go through the ayat. Yet what is the gist of the recommendations of these ayat as well as others in the Holy Quran with regards to the act of charity and giving for the sake of Allah? The first realization is that sadaqah, as many of us understand it, is what? Giving for the sake of Allah. Yet the Quran and the Ahl al-Bayt, who are the practical demonstration and the manifestation of the Quran, they come forward and say sadaqah is whatever what you and I do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that brings about some positive change for the people. Meaning what? That the Prophet of Islam would say to people, you and I, he says, oh Muslims, you must give sadaqah every day. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, that's a bit too much for us. He responds and says, when you remove a hurdle from someone on the way, on their path, that is sadaqah. When you enjoin the good and forbid the evil, that is sadaqah. When you visit a sick person, that is sadaqah. When you indeed ask about an individual, that is sadaqah. Al-kalimatul hasana, when you say a good word, that is sadaqah. Meaning that sadaqah has a general, general understanding, and that is whatever righteous deed that brings forth benefit, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is indeed blessed with it. Number one. Number two, the Quran tells us a phenomenal, beautiful element about the issue of sadaqah, and that is what? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the first being who takes the sadaqah. Meaning what? Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala says, أَلَمْ يَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ يَقْبَلُ التَّوْبَةَ عَنْ عِبَادِهِ وَيَأْخُذُ الصَّدَقَاتِ. That's why our holy fourth Imam, Imam Zayn al-Abidin al-Sajjad, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh, when he gave sadaqah, he was seen at certain instances to take the hand of the poor and kiss it. Somebody came to him and said, Ya Rasulullah, you giving sadaqah is good, but kissing the hand of the poor, how could that be? He said, do you not know that once an individual gives the sadaqah, the first to receive it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore what? I am kissing what? This in a metaphorical reference to this particular idea. Allah says, I am the one who what? Who takes the sadaqah. How beautiful is this? Because the realization is the following. When you and I give charity, we may think that we are doing someone a favor. The opposite is true. In which way? That people say when you give for the sake of Allah, you are fixing the dunya of an individual, but they are fixing your akhirah. That the human being by that process is getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reaping the fruits and the what? And indeed the benefit. In chapter 261, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins these 14 ayat that discuss sadaqah with the following. مثل الذين ينفقون في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت سبع سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة. Allah gives us a multitude. A parable of those who give for the sake of Allah is like what? When an individual gives one grain, they get 7 ears. And from that each ear, they get 100 grains in return. Meaning more than 700 times the reward is multiplied. But Allah says, do not calculate it this way. Because on the night of Qadr, many a times people come forward and say, one night is equal to 83 years. Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alf shahr. That's not true. Because the Quran does not say it is equal. The Quran says khayrun min alf shahr. It is just giving you an example. It is just giving you a number. It is greater than 83 years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says when you give one sadaqah, it is more than 700 times multiplied. Wallahu yudha'ifu man yasha. It could be 1,400. It could be 2,800. It could be much, much more by the permission of Allah. The idea is this mudha'afa is there. Wallahu wasi'un alim. Yes, that realization emerges. That's the first. The second, when we examine the Holy Quran, is the fact that when it comes to sadaqah, it brings forth much benefit for the human being in this world, before akhirah. Because of course, no doubt, that there is a much reward for the human being on the day of judgment. But the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah and other verses in the Holy Book discuss the benefits in dunya for the human being. The first is what? The first is protection from misfortunes. Our holy sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. In a narration, it is said that he said, "As-sadaqatu tadfa'u sab'ina naw'an min al-bala." Sadaqah protects from 70 different types of calamities, of misfortunes. Hence, some people came to him and said, "Ya ibn Rasulullah, we're traveling and we want our wealth to be protected. We want you to," he was traveling with them, "we want you to look after it." He said, "But if I carry it, the bandits and the thieves will also may attack me." Yes. They said, "What should we do? We have to take it with us." At that time, there was no banks, there's no savings account. I have to take. Imam says, "Why don't you give it to the being who will not only protect it for you, but will multiply it when you ask for it back?" He says, "Who?" He says, "Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." He says, "How?" They said, Imam says, "Give a third of it to sadaqah, and I guarantee for you, once you do, Allah will protect what you have with you, the other 2/3, but He will what? He will give you much more." They said, "Indeed we will." They gave a third to the sadaqah, to the needy, to the poor and the orphans. They moved on their journey. In their journey, they saw from far a few people, maybe wearing black, bandits coming across them, thieves. They come to them. They said to them, "We are here not to take the money from you. We are here to protect you. We had to look after you." They said, "Why?" They said, "Some of us saw in our dream that the Prophet of Islam would say these are special people, that they have given for the sake of Allah, you must go and protect them." Those people with the Holy Six Imam, they looked at these people who have just come and said, "We don't need you. We have Allah who will protect us." Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed will protect us. And the one who looked after our wealth will also look after everything else. And when they returned, when they continued their journey, they saw many fruits, and indeed their wealth increased. Yes, that's number one. Number two, spiritual purification. Sadaqah brings forth this idea of proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا." Take from their money or from their wealth that which gives them purity and tazkiyah, the purification of the soul, that no doubt the human being through giving for the sake of Allah. Why? Because the Quran says, وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. The human being desires and loves this wealth, yes? Loves to keep to it, loves to keep it to themselves and spend it their own way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "I want to break this within you. You must give from that which you desire the most. لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تحبون. You will not attain righteousness and virtue, higher degrees of spirituality, unless you give from that which you desire the most." Because today what is happening? We find companies, yes, bringing these bags or asking, "Do you have old clothes? Do you have old things?" People give, yes. Or for example, you have coins in your pocket, lots of 1p and 5p and 10p. And all of a sudden, sadaqah time, you empty it. All of a sudden, the first feeling is, "I've emptied my pocket." Good. Or for example, you've given your old clothes. Allah says that is not really sadaqah. Sadaqah is when you take that which you desire the most and you break the ego, the idol that exists within you, and you say, "For the sake of Allah, I am giving this." That is what sadaqah in reality is. That is what infaq in real meaning is. Yes. Likewise, we find sadaqah helps with what? Not only spiritual purification, not only protection from the illness or protection from misfortune, but specifically cure for illnesses. Yes, that when an individual is ill or going through ailments or God forbid some kind of conditions, we are told sadaqah, dawu mardhakum bis sadaqah. The narration says that give the sadaqah is a means of attaining medicine or attaining the cure for that particular ailment. Likewise, it delays death. That one day Isa alayhi salam said what? He said, "This man is going to die." He looked at this person and said, "This person is going to die." Yes, that person didn't hear. He said, "Going to die tomorrow." Next day they came and they found him alive. Isa asked him, "What happened?" He said, "At night, I was about to go to sleep and the door was knocked. There was a poor man. I went and gave him whatever I have in the house." Isa said, "Look underneath your pillow." He lifted the pillow and he saw a dead snake. He said that snake was about to what? Was about to bite you. Was about to bite you and the poison would kill you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prolonged your life due to what? Due to the charity. And likewise, one important, very crucial benefit of infaq fi sabilillah, giving for the sake of Allah, is the fulfillment of hajat and the answering of dua by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many times people have come to ulama or have searched online, qada haja, I am in need, I have many hajat, I want things to be fulfilled, things are not happening with me, my business, or I want to get married for some people, or for others, for example, their health, or education, or work, or job. There are, each and every one of us have hajat, isn't it? Have needs. We have so many narrations, Quran as well as ahadith, that says that giving for the sake of Allah speeds up the fulfillment of hajat. Because we have a beautiful narration, Hadith Qudsi, that says this, and please pay attention to this. أَنَا عِنْدَ الْمُنْكَسِرَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Allah says, I am with the ones whose hearts are broken. And you know, when you look at the orphans and the needy, those who have been oppressed, isn't it? Their hearts are broken. They have no one other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why if you and I want our hajat to be fulfilled, yes, when we see these people, we give them for the sake of Allah and do not expect anything in return. But we ask them, if they can, to remember us in dua, because their dua is phenomenal. Yes, their dua is something else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when there is a broken heart for my sake, yes, I am with them. And indeed, the supplication and the dua will be answered. But of course, the religion of Islam comes forward and says, giving is a good thing. We have a lot of people out there, non-Muslims as well as Muslims, who give, yes, who give, help others, philanthropy and others, and so on and so forth. In fact, the Muslim community have really done well, especially in this country, that indeed they've come amongst the top communities when it comes to giving and charity, yes, especially during the month of Ramadan. And it is an act which, or a bit of information which is delightful, isn't it? Yet at the same time there are adab. Very quickly, before we mention the lady of generosity, what are the adab as far as this element is concerned, as far as infaq? Number one, and this is not an exhaustive list, but some recommendations for us to keep in mind. It must be for the sake of Allah and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. The niyyah must be completely sincere. Ikhlas for the sake of Allah. Why? Because in Surah Al-Baqarah, what do we find? We find this beautiful verse. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ سِرًّا وَعَلَانِيَةً. Allah says there is an individual who gave an example to people. He had what? 4 coins, 4 gold coins. He gave one in private, one in public, one during the day and one at night. And that individual was none other than Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And indeed, what do we find? We find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praising him in the Quran. Why? Because he wanted to demonstrate to people the etiquettes of giving sadaqah. Sometimes the sadaqah must be given to the extent that the left hand does not see the right hand giving it. That it must be so concealed for the sake of Allah. And it is wonderful to see that these websites that encourage you to donate for a particular cause, like this Just Giving, it's a chance for you to be anonymous. Yes? That you give an anonymous donation as people give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ultimately, that is what matters. And we have sometimes a tendency to ask or to say that, look, I am the one who donated, I must be seen or I must be somehow identified. We must be very wary of this. But is it okay to be identified for other reasons? Yes. If the sincerity is for Allah, and there is true khulus for the Almighty, then sometimes the Amir al-Mu'mineen gave one in public. Why? To encourage others. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the intention. Of course, the intention of Amir al-Mu'mineen is sincere. But when you and I give in public, our intention must be for the sake of Allah and not to get the pat on the back or celebration or some kind of congratulation from others that you are rich and that you are what? You have done great and you are generous. Because we have a narration on the Day of Judgment. 3 kinds of people are brought to Jahannam. One of them is one who recited the Quran beautifully. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, take him to Jahannam. He will say, Ya Allah, why? I recited the Quran in the most beautiful of ways. The response is, you recited it beautifully so that people will come to you and say, you have a beautiful voice, to congratulate your voice. Another one who gave for the sake of Allah. Well, people thought for the sake of Allah, but donated. He's taken to Jahannam. Why? So that people You did it so that people will come and tap you on the back and say, well done. And the third one who was killed in the battlefield, fighting the enemies on the Islamic side. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you were killed because you wanted to show your bravery, not for my sake. Yes? It's all about sincerity, the purity of thought, the purity of intention. That's number one. The second, very important adab, which is mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, and that is when you and I give, there must be no request for some kind of remembrance or recognition. لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. The Quran says in Surah Al-Baqarah, meaning, do not make your sadaqah batil by asking for some kind of return, by asking for some kind of acknowledgement. Yes. In any shape or form, the sadaqah should be for the sake of Allah, and there should never be a request for what? For some kind of detailed or less type of acknowledgement and recognition. The Quran says, do you know the parable of this in Surah Baqarah? The parable is this: when an individual comes and finds a rock and there is some soil on it, and he plants a plant on the soil. Quran says the rain would come, the plant is gone, the soil is gone, all that is left is the hard rock. Quran says that's the sadaqah which is given with a man. Man means a kind of obligation. Someone comes to you and asks you for some help, yes? You give them. A few years later you say, didn't I not help you? That is man. Man means you place an obligation over them. It's somehow you have something which you feel superior over them, yes? That is something to be considered and for us to keep in mind as an important adab when it comes to giving. What else? Not to look at the face of the individual. Yes, to try and somehow save their face if we can, or not to expose that individual. These are there. Likewise, what do we find? Also, not to give false promises to people. If we cannot help them, then not help them. If you are not able to fulfill their needs, then just say, I'm not able to give, but not to give some kind of false promise. Likewise, Quran says, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ خَيْرٌ مِنْ صَدَقَةٍ تَتْبَعُهَا أَذَى. To say something nice to someone who asks you is much better than to give and to constantly keep going back at them, constantly keep saying why they do this and that. That sometimes we need to say kind words, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you are not able to, then you must excuse yourself in the most appropriate, respectful manner. Likewise, we are told relatives are first. The Quran says that the individuals, when they give sadaqah, let them look at their family members, let them look at their relatives first. Yes, al-aqrabuna awla bil-ma'roof, that we must not forget those who are related to us if they are in need, and if they are individuals who want help, we should extend help to them. We should support them. We should do whatever it takes to alleviate their sufferings. And likewise, when you and I look at examples to emulate, examples to look for of individuals who are outstanding in their giving for the sake of Allah, one comes with the name Khadijatul Kubra, salawatullahi wa salamu alayha. What can be said more than the fact that Allah praises her in the Quran, in that He says, وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. Ya Rasulullah, I have given you wealth. Allah says, but the way I have given you wealth is through Khadijatul Kubra. She is the tool, the ambassador of Allah in fulfilling this promise of the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala, isn't it? That Khadijatul Kubra, before her marriage with the Holy Prophet of Islam, she used to be a lady known as a lady of generosity. Yes, Sayyidatu Quraysh, At-Tahira. She used to give to the orphans and the needy. Yes, and this increased much more after their blessed marriage with the Holy Prophet. Some narrations say that, for example, she gave Halima Sa'diyah, the wet nurse of the Prophet, 40 goats. She gave 40 goats as a means of charity, of assistance, of help. Indeed, isn't it well known that if it wasn't for the sword of Ali and the wealth of Khadijah, Islam would not have strengthened and spread. Indeed, she was a lady who was beloved by the Holy Prophet of Islam, who would constantly remember her, constantly grieve for her. And when other wives suggested that they are better, the Prophet of Islam would respond in angry way and say, no, by Allah, I did not have a wife that was better than Khadija. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed gave him Khadija, and during the life of Khadija, he did not marry anyone else. She was the true love of his life as far as the wife is concerned. Yes, the Prophet of Islam would say, she supported me when people turned their back. She bore me a child when no one else did. Yes, she gave me where people did not. She believed in me when people did not. Hence you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends this message through Jibreel to the Prophet to inform Khadijatul Kubra that Allah is salam, and he sends the salam towards Khadija, and that he has reserved for her a special place in Jannah, isn't it? Because she gave everything that she had for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the richest ladies in Arabia ends up in her final 3 years of her life having no food and eating grass. What kind of devotion! Truly she extends today as a role model for both males and females. And when we remember Khadijatul Kubra today, yes, what do we remember? We remember the fact that there are so many people suffering around the world. So many individuals who need our help, who need our assistance. In the name of Khadijatul Kubra, the mother of charity, the mother of generosity and giving. And you know, do not be surprised by the generosity of her daughter Fatima, who would give everything for the sake of Allah. How can she not come out this way when her mother is Khadija and her father is Rasulullah? Isn't it? That Khadija taught her what? Taught her child this particular element of magnanimity and charity. Today we have people who are oppressed around the world. Yes, you look around the world, just like how Khadija was oppressed during the final years of her life. We have people oppressed, such as the ones oppressed in Yemen. We have forgotten what has happened in Yemen, isn't it? There are people, according to estimates, 80% of the population today in Yemen is in need of humanitarian assistance. 20 million people today are in need of help. Over 9,000 people have been killed due to the Saudi aggression. Yes. And they are asking for our help. They are asking for our assistance. This month of Ramadan, we must make a difference to our lives. Yes. Finally, before going into the musibah, this brother that many of us have seen his image holding his daughter who is dead. You might have seen this image of this particular brother in Yemen who is holding the corpse of his young daughter by the name of Zainab, this brother by the name of Ibrahim Abdul Karim. He sends a message. He says, I want the world to know of the oppression and the need of the Yemeni people today. Yes, that he woke up, he saw the rubble all over the body of his particular daughter. That what he saw his wife half covered in rubble, and the house that fell after the Saudi strike. Yes, he takes his daughter to save her to hospital, but indeed she leaves this world, and his story and the story of so many others are there for us to try and assist them, to help them, yes, at least by providing some assistance to them in the remembrance of the lady, indeed, who suffered so much towards the end of her life, who stood steadfast and strong in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the support of the Holy Prophet. That's why when she left this world, the Prophet of Islam came and looked at her. They did not have a coffin to cover the body of Khadija. Yes, they were there in Shu'ab Abi Talib. They had nothing to cover the body of Khadija. The narrations tell us, yes, that the Prophet would weep and cry. Someone said, Ya Rasulullah, why are you weeping? The response was that normally daughters, when they marry, they want their mothers with them, and I am crying for my daughter Fatima. When she marries, there is no mother for her. Yes, but the narration says at that moment Jibreel descended and said to the Holy Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, Allah has sent you special kafan from Jannah to cover Khadija, but this kafan, Ya Ya Rasulullah, is made out of what? 5 pieces. Yes, one piece of this kafan is for Khadija, the second piece is for you, the third is for Fatima, the fourth is for Ali, and the fifth is for Hassan al-Mujtaba. Now when Amir al-Mu'mineen is telling this later, when he is what? When he is covering the body of Fatima, at that moment there is one young girl who stands up and says, Father, you have mentioned everybody, what about my brother Hussein? Zainab says, Hussein, is there a cover for Hussein? Is there a shroud for Hussein? Why is Hussein got no cover? Why does he have no kafan? Yes, that's why our fourth Imam would come and greet his father when he was about to bury him. Yes, As-salamu ala man kafanuhu turab. Oh, the one whose kafan is the soil of Karbala, the hot scorching sands of Karbala. Yes, Imam Zain al-Abidin lowers the body, wants to lower the body inside the grave. Bani Asad come, they say, shall we help you? He says, no, there are those who assist me. Later he calls them and says, do you have a white piece of cloth? They say, why? He says, every time I carry the body of my father, another piece falls out. I want to gather the body parts of my father Hussein. I want to place it all in a small piece of white cloth. How much was the body trampled on? How many stabs did it have? How much did it move from one area to another that Imam Zain al-Abidin cannot carry it? Then he places the body inside the grave. Those who've had their loved ones pass away know that when you are there, that's the final moments of wida, the final moments to bid farewell. You come and embrace the face, you kiss the face, you kiss the neck. Zain al-Abidin looks at his father. There is no neck, there is no face, there is no head to embrace. Ya Aba Abdullah, you remain 3 days with no kafan. You remain 3 days with no burial. Imam seals the grave and places on it, هذا قبر الحسين بن علي الذي قتل مظلوما عطشانا بأرض كربلاء. This is the grave of Hussein, who was killed and oppressed unjustly on the plains of Karbala. But I tell you, the one who also witnessed his body with his sister Zainab on the day of Arba'in, Zainab returns with the head of Abu Abdullah. She sits next to the grave. She places the head next to the body and cries and says, Hussein, my brother Hussein, if only you know the calamities that befell upon us in Sham. If only you know how they treated us in Sham and Kufa. But Ya Abu Abdullah, there is one thing I need to tell you. The poet says, Zainab says, Hussein, my heart is broken. I am unable to say it, but I have to say it. That you gave me an amana. You asked me to protect your daughter Sakina. Hussein, your Sakina is in Shah. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. يا حسين.